The skill language allows you to group expressions together, using curly brackets, or with the let function, to create a single expression, and the return value of the block expression will be the return value of the last expression in the block. The curly brackets allow you to combine multiple expressions into a single expression and return a single value, but do not allow you to create any local values. The value of the single expression can then be assigned to a variable, or used in any way a simple expression can be used. As an example to emphasize the idea that the curly brackets do not allow you to define local variables, we will first create 4 global variables, x1, x2, y1, and y2, and give them integer values, and we will then be finding the distance between the point x1, x2 and y1, y2. We'll assign the distance between the 2 points to the return value of our complex expression, the variable, distance. We'll use the open curly bracket to begin our complex expression, and then assign new values to the variables x1, x2, y1, and y2. We'll calculate the delta x and the delta y between the 2 points, and store those variables, and finally, use the sqrt math operator, to find the square root of the sum of the squares of the delta x and the delta y, which is the distance between the point x1, x2 and the point y1, y2. The close curly bracket ends our complex expression. The return value of the complex expression is the value of the last expression in the block, and this is assigned to the distance variable. We can then load our example file in the skill interpreter and check the results. If we look at the value of the distance variable, we can see that the return value of our block expression was assigned. Notice that at the top of the file, the variables x1, x2, y1, and y2 are set to 5, 10, 15 and 20, and then in the block they are reassigned to values of 100, 200, 300, and 400. If we look at the value of those variables now, we see that they contain the values 100, 200, 300, and 400. They exist at the global scope. So changes made inside the block exist outside of the block as well. The let function allows you to create a single expression out of a block expression as well, and has the added advantage of allowing you to create local variables that exist only in the scope of the let block. In our example, we can change our curly brackets to a let function. Notice that the let function is just like other skill functions, and you cannot have a space after the let and the open parentheses. The let block starts with its open parentheses, and ends with the closed parentheses. We started the let function with an open and closed parentheses also. This is where we can define any local variables that we choose. In our case, we'll define x1, x2, y1, and y2 as local variables. Local variables are assigned an initial value of nil, and in our example, they are assigned the values 100, 200, 300, and 400. The distance is then calculated, and the return value of our let function will be the last expression evaluated in the let function, and this will be assigned to the variable distance. Let's add some print statements to our example to emphasize the use of our local variables. Before our let block, let's print the values of x1, x2, y1, and y2, and we should see their global values that are set. In the let function, after assigning a value to the local values of the variables, we'll reprint the value of the variables, and should see their local values. The global values of the variables are hidden within the let expression, and we'll print them one last time after the let expression, and we should see that the global value of the variables are returned outside the scope of the let function. When we save and load our example file and see our output, we see that the variables x1, x2, y1, and y2 were set to 5, 10, 15 and 20 at the global scope, then were assigned 100, 200, 300, and 400 at the local scope of the let function, and then return to the global scope once we are outside of the let function. In summary, you can create a single expression out of a block of expressions by either using curly brackets or a let function. The let function also has the advantage of allowing you to define local variables that are only valid within the scope of the let function.